I've got a rule that's served me pretty well over the years in this space. I don't form a public opinion on anything until the testing period stops producing new information. And that usually means several weeks of active use with my own money on the line, because that's the only context where a platform can't hide what it actually is. So right now, I'm just going to do what I've been doing every other day for the past few months: open my account and run it while you watch. Then I want to talk through something I consider essential context for anyone thinking about using a tool like this, how to evaluate it intelligently, and why this one specifically makes sense right now. So here we go. First here, I select a token, Solana today, and I actually want to pause here for a moment because I think this part of the platform tends to get skimmed past without people fully registering what it means. This system supports multi-chain standard, and the significance of that in daily use is real. I'm not adapting my session strategy around the platform's limitations. I'm just choosing whatever asset makes the most sense for my current position. Okay, next is power configuration. So this is where I define the operational intensity of the session, the resource depth, how hard the system pushes throughout the run, the overall processing load. And the reason I don't just leave this on a default setting is that it has a direct bearing on the final result. So there's a genuine calculation involved in how I land on these numbers. Okay, I press launch now. Good, mining process started. Console is running right here. Time, total load, my progress, live log window, all the stats I always keep open because it gives me real-time system-level visibility rather than just a surface status update. So I'm gonna let this run for around a few minutes, then I'll take you through the next sequence. Okay friends, so I press stop here. Okay, session is done and it's showing me the final result. So here, step 1, I add my receiving address. Next, I need to cover infrastructure charges calculated from the configuration I had set and the total active runtime. And what I keep coming back to with this model is how clean the transparency is. Every variable in calculation is something I set myself before the mining starts, so the number that comes up at the end is never a surprise. And worth specifically calling out, I have complete freedom over which asset I use to cover it. It's just whatever makes the most sense for me at this moment. Good, then I press I've sent and wait here while the transaction will be processed. Okay, well that clears. First, let me take a moment to explain what cloud mining is for anyone who isn't fully across this yet, because understanding the model gives the rest of what I'm about to say a lot more context. So the way cloud mining actually works is pretty straightforward once you strip away the jargon. The whole idea is built around remote infrastructure. There are professional data centers out there running industrial-grade mining hardware at scale, and what this platform does is essentially connect people to that existing computing power. The session gets configured, the infrastructure does the computational heavy lifting on the data center side, and the mined output routes directly to whatever wallet address is specified. The whole operational complexity lives entirely on the infrastructure side, and what reaches the end user is just the result. And here's the thing that I think most people miss when they look at cloud mining right now. The market conditions we're sitting in at the moment are actually pretty unusual in terms of what they mean for this kind of tool. Volatility is high, traditional yield strategies are getting squeezed, and a lot of the passive income options that made sense 2 years ago just don't carry the same weight anymore. And cloud mining, done through a platform that's actually built properly, sits in a really interesting position relative to all of that, because the output isn't tied to whether you timed the market right or whether you're holding the right asset at the right moment. You're generating yield on top of whatever you're already holding, and you're doing it in a way that compounds regardless of which direction the broader market is moving. And compared to staking, which is probably the closest thing most people reach for, the flexibility here is genuinely in a different category. With staking, you're locked in, your asset is tied up, and your yield is fixed by whatever the protocol decides. Here, I'm choosing the token, setting the intensity, running the session on my terms, and withdrawing whenever I want. And that combination of control and liquidity is something that's pretty hard to find anywhere else right now at a comparable yield level. The other thing worth saying, and I think this actually matters a lot in the current environment, is that the multi-chain architecture here means I'm not betting on any single network. I'm spreading sessions across assets that behave differently from each other, which effectively distributes the exposure in a way that most single-chain tools just can't offer. And when you factor in the fee structure, which is transparent, predictable, and directly tied to the parameters I set myself, the overall picture is genuinely one of the more efficient yield setups I've come across in a while. And given what I've been through in this space and the specific lens I now bring to evaluating platforms, I know exactly what that track record means. It means the infrastructure behind this is genuine, not propped up temporarily to build early confidence, not simulated, genuinely there and genuinely consistent. And after weeks of actively looking for a reason to doubt that conclusion, I don't have one. That's where I land.